Jamie, are you from South Carolina? Where are you from?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Got a little bit of a twang still.
Yeah, sure.
Um, can you see my spirit team? Do you like is that something you can give me a hint about?
Well, Derek, let me just first see if I have your permission to look in and see if I see your spirit team. Is that you giving me permission to look?
Yes, yeah, please.
Okay. And I just make that discernment because I'm not sitting over here looking at you without your express permission. All right, Derek, I'm just going to be silent for a few moments and I'm just going to kind of go within and see who comes forward. Okay.
All right.
Okay, Derek. So the first energy that comes forward and shows me itself is I'm going to reference it as your higher self. Okay. And this is just a term I use. There's lots of words that we can use to describe this, but I would say it's your oversoul. Um, if you wanted to kind of reference the raw material or the law of ones, like okay, it's your sixth density self. It's that part of you, that beingness of you that's always present here with you, interconnected with you, that's streaming you, your soul blueprint that knows, has all the knowledge, wisdom, and experience of all your lifetimes, all the spaces between lifetimes. So it's basically you in spirit. It's you in the vast knowing, the absolute comprehensive knowing of your own loving intelligence. Okay. So it's that you that has no question or concern about your wholeness. Okay. And it also knows and feels and sees your beingness and what you're doing here and sort of what you're here on this planet or in this incarnation to sort of like be playing out and all this stuff. So your higher self comes forward and it's so funny because you show me your higher self comes forward and grows very tall above you and you're standing like this, like, and
Superhero
you're kind of
pose.
yes, but you're kind of like you've got on, I want to say sort of like forest boots. And even though you're growing taller than the forest and the trees, you're definitely standing in a forest and you're kind of showing yourself like a lumberjack or kind of like that energy that may be sort of like this archetype of the lumberjack of like I'm a protector of the forest or I'm a protector or I stand for nature, but I see trees. So again, when we talk about, sometimes I talk about a nature signature around somebody. Some people are very aligned with like the desert or
Mhm.
cactuses or rivers or oceans. For some reason, I see you planting yourself in and above a forest. And then there's a funny kind of comical thing going on. You've got a little blue jay that just flew and landed on your shoulder, like a little, okay, and I'm getting corrected. It's a blue bird because I think a blue jay has a little bit more character and like a mohawk in its feather feature, but
Mhm.
this is more of a blue bird. So it's
Which
just
is
kind of
the
a
state bird here where I live. So
so it lands on your right shoulder and it feels really sweet and it feels like it's going like whistling to you in your ear, these sweet little sort of conversations, and it feels like it's your you know some people in character or some characters in movies have like an eagle land on their shoulder and we're all like, oh my gosh, the master of the eagle, or a dragon, oh god. The bluebird feels like it's your power animal or your animal ally,
Hmm.
and it feels like it has a knowledge or understanding of the forest but as a being of the forest, and it also feels like it has sort of this softness about it. I don't know much about bluebirds, but it's also kind of showing me that it has a sort of emphasis towards a mate, like that it's not off on its own being an eagle flying through the sky soaring, that it's very aware of all of the layers of the forest. It's very aware of all the beings of the forest. It also prefers company, prefers company, prefers partnership. So there's this very sort of, I want to say sort of softness or very aware of all the others that also are in the forest. And
Mm,
where
mm,
like the eagle may soar out above all things and have this big bird's eye view, the bluebird's showing me it has a very in-depth knowledge of the inner workings of the actual forest, that it doesn't need to fly high above it, that it's part of it, and that that's its power or its strength or its love. And so it feels like that may be a signature that's aligned with you. I also see you, your higher self, showing me again standing tall, that you feel yourself or perceive yourself to be a steward of the forest or a sort of protector or nurturer of the
mm,
forest,
mm,
because the lumberjack, what I'm being shown, the lumberjack may go through the forest and may cut down a tree here or there, but selectively and with a vast knowledge of the forest and understanding, this tree over here looks like it's decaying a bit in this lower side, and it doesn't look like it's going to be able to recover from this point. So we would benefit the forest, and this tree would be a benefit to the people with wood, firewood, building material, to go ahead and cut this one down. But as we cut it down, we need to be sure that we're attentive to what's living in the tree, and we need to see where it's going to fall, and we're going to need to make sure there are no humans around. So it feels like this very sort of attentive to, similar to the bluebird, to all beings, to all creatures, to everyone who's there in the forest. But it also feels like it's a caretaking role or a stewardship role. But then the lumberjack also has more of that sort of masculine energy of like, there are things to do.
mm,
So there's action to take, and there's protection to give. So like where the forest may not be able to speak for itself in terms of the human collective, it may not be able to show up at the table and actually have a voice. The lumberjack energy that's showing itself to me through your higher self is showing I have a voice for the forest. And so I'm just going to pause there before that continues, Derek, because I always like to see how that's resonating with you or not.
yeah, that's so interesting you said that. There's two things, and Michael, we might have even talked about this. I have my own tree that gave me this sort of mission that I encountered. It's maybe like an 800-year-old tree in Bali that gave me this
Mm.
mission to take people out into the forest. That's when I started my adventure quest trips, because it was like, you need to bring leaders into the forest so that they can, re-experience themselves as part of nature rather than separate, the whole non-duality thing, I guess. Um, and Jamie, I've also had visions of myself, maybe like a previous lifetime, as like a tribal elder, perhaps in this same location in Missouri, in the forests, of the keeper of the forest, or like the storyteller for the forest. And I would do these in my visions, I would do these like really long runs, like 100 miles of running, and just like sensing the forest and like just checking up on everything, and then coming back and like telling stories around the fire of like what I had seen and experienced. So that feels in alignment what you're saying.
Derek, that's awesome. And I'm kind of giggling inside, because when you say that you've had that vision of seeing yourself running, I've seen things like that before. And especially it feels like people who are have lifetimes as Indigenous people or Native Americans. It seems like there's this thing where people run long distances to map out or have a sensory perception of an
Mm,
area to be able to relate it back to their community or tribe. But I always see it as runners. But it's sort of like, as you're running through the forest or through the landscape or through the terrain, there's sort of like an intuitive mapping or a sensory thing going on that then you're able to take back and share that wisdom and seeing, that far seeing through the running. For some reason, I know what you're saying. It's like 100
mm,
miles. It's like, and I also sometimes see bare feet, 100 miles, So that's really fascinating.
Hmm.
How interesting.
Yeah. And I'm just like imagining running through the forest. It's like it when you're running through the forest, it feels like it's just flying by you effortlessly. And it's like you're not running too fast, but you're just like moving seamlessly through the forest. It's such a magical feeling. I do that in this lifetime as well, which is it's a beautiful thing.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. You it sounds like perhaps there was more you had to share.
Let's see here, Derek. I'm basically asking your higher self from within. I'm saying, do you have anything left for Derek here?
Hmm.
So just one moment here. I'll just be silent for a few moments. Okay, apparently you've got a good sense of humor, Derek, because the what you do is you're standing, your higher self is standing again with sort of arms or fists on hips with this sort of superhero pose. And then you just stuck your right arm up in a flex, and then you pointed that way, but you're showing me your muscle. Okay. And you're like, the forest is that way, but you keep
Way.
showing me your muscle. So there's bear with me. Sometimes people have a good sense of humor, and apparently you do. So the message you're showing me through this sort of comedy is you're showing me, it's kind of like you're telling me like, hey, yeah, like a little strength is beneficial, but then you're also like making the joke about it. You're like, I mean, not too much. Let's not go overboard. Like you're like, the superhero pose is enough. Like that sort of like pose embodies and shows the strength, but you're like, having a little bit of muscular strength. You're just showing me to show you, like, you're like, yeah, do it. Why not? Good idea. Like maintain the strength, maintain the musculature. But you're like, you're kind of making a joke. You're like, let's not go overboard here. This isn't, there's no need for bodybuilding. We don't have to have this, it's more like it feels like a strength that feels good in the body. I think sometimes when we see musculature or when these things come through about fitness or physical health or what, sometimes the collective culture is so focused on the appearance of this is not what this is. I can feel it in the body of like feeling good that the arm feels like it has some strength. And then you're like, you just keep showing me, you're like, I mean, let's not take this too seriously though.
Hmm.
So it just feels like a little sort of like nudge or permission to like, yeah, be strong, but like it doesn't have to be what the mind sometimes thinks it has to be. It just, you want to feel strong in the body.
That's really interesting and also very timely. I've been using the gym and lifting weights for the first time, sort of prioritizing it above my bike racing, which I've done for many, many years. It's one of those things where it's like part of my identity. I'm like, I'm just a bike racer and I love it. And thinking about not racing part of the year is kind of like, ooh, a little bit of faith. But then I'm, in the gym and feeling strong and I can carry both kids, one in each hand. It's still, and it's like, this is great to be able to do this. But I put on my shirt today. This is like one of my favorite custom tailored shirts, and I'm like, ooh, it's getting a little tight. Like, God, don't want to get too many muscles I can't wear wear my favorite shirt. So, yeah, how about that?
So that's it. That's
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
what's come through. It's kind of like scene.
All right, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is fun. Thank you, Michael, for letting us explore that, being patient.
Of course, I'm here amused also.
Last time we got some channeling from Michael, which was super cool, and that kind of kicked off. Actually, perhaps you were the first person to do some channeling on the show. We've had maybe 5 or 6 more people doing it live on the show, which is really, I'd like to be able to share that. And
Awesome.
hey, friend, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this particular clip, then I have something else I want to tell you about, which is the League of Superconductors. It's a business mastermind that I run to elevate the greatest change makers of our time. That is people that I like to call quantum entrepreneurs, metaphysical, spiritual teachers, healers, coaches, light workers of different types. And this is a year-long business mastermind starting in May of 2022. So if that's the type of thing that you're looking for, if you're looking to better fuel your mission by having a business that brings in all the abundance you're looking for, that both operates at the 3D level, serving the people of Earth, and at a multi-dimensional level, bringing in all of the higher wisdom and experience that you have access to, that's what we're doing. So if that sounds like something for you, then you can check out the link below, read a little bit more about the program, what we do each month. And I also invite you to apply for a call with me, a strategy session. We can get to know each other. I'll coach you a little bit, and you can decide if that might be the exact thing that you've been looking for. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.